Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome, all you dregs of society, all you rock dwellers, all you sycophants, all you stinkos, and especially all you hateful people who celebrate the president and honor America. You know you're always welcome here. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, and joining me today as my co-host is the President and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom, and that's George Landreth. George, welcome back to Conservative Commandos.
As I always say, this is the place to be.
All right. George, I cannot believe that I had this thought about 4 years ago. And that thought was, after President Donald Trump got elected, my thought was, well, we have the House, we have the Senate, we have the White House, we have a majority in the Supreme Court. Maybe it's time for Rick Trader just to retire. Instead of doing Conservative Commandos, I could be sitting in my easy chair on a beautiful afternoon like this with the kitty cat on my lap, taking a nap, watching an old movie on TV. After all, George, what possibly would there be that we could talk about over the next 4 years? My gosh, George, I was so wrong. And look what I would have missed. George, just this past weekend, more news. The death of Justice Ginsburg. She's died. A lot of people say, well, might have been a weekend of Bernie's thing. Might have been gone for some times. But, George, the news came that she had passed. And now, with 50 days or whatever it is until our next election, look at all the material we have to talk about. In fact, we've got a real theme show today. We're going to have 3 guests, and we'll talk about our guests a little bit later on. But it's certainly a show of centric on the idea of the Supreme Court.
Oh yeah. No, this is the big news. I think it's very odd how we have a Constitution. It clearly lays out that the president's sole responsibility when there's a vacancy is to name someone to fill that vacancy. And then the Senate's sole responsibility with respect to that vacancy is to advise and consent, which has historically meant that they hold hearings of some sort, but they haven't always, but they advise and consent. And then all of a sudden today, it's all this crazy talk. I find it stunning that we are actually having this kind of just insane conversation about like it's like the president's doing something bad by naming someone. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I kind of scratch my head and say, you got to be kidding me. How is that even possible that this is but yet you have people who are acting like it is. So I don't really know how we got here in terms of it's a little too nutty, and it's a little too scary, I think, to think that we've gotten to the point where people are just this unhinged. But that's what it is. It's just unhinged. People are completely unhinged, and I don't understand it.
Well, and I think that unhinging are people on the left. I mean, they are going bonkers. They're threatening. Nancy Pelosi's already threatening to impeach the president and impeach the attorney general. For what, George? For doing the job. For doing the jobs that's outlined in the Constitution that they are to do. George, I think that there would be a better case for impeachment if they didn't do their jobs.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit nutty. I have to say, I just kind of scratch my head and say, how did we get to this place where, if this is the weird thing, is in 2016, the Republicans had the majority. but the presidency was held by the opposing party. The Republicans operated under their constitutional authority, and they didn't approve of President Obama's pick. Okay, that's apparently supposed to be some sort of dastardly thing. And then now the Republicans are in charge of the Senate, and they happen to also hold the White House. And everyone acts shocked that they're prepared to pass the president's nominee. Well, when I say prepared to pass, they haven't actually said they'd pass him or approve of him. They said they'd vote on it because they don't yet know who the nominee will be. So what has Mitch McConnell said? We'll hold a vote. So the bottom line is, I just think it's very odd to me that they are going crazy over this stuff, because the only thing that's consistent in all of this, I would argue, is the Republicans have taken the position that elections mean something. So guess what? When they hold the Senate, they can, use that power they have under the Constitution to promote the policies that they think are best. In this case, the best judges. And also, the Democrats are being very consistent because they would like for elections to not matter. They wanted the Republicans in 2016 to pretend they weren't the majority party in the Senate. And they now want the Republicans to pretend the same thing. And there's a certain symmetry to all of this, because the Democrats don't respect elections. And haven't really since about 2000. It's about 2000. I used to think that they didn't respect that election because it was so close in Florida, all the hanging chads. Now I realize, oh no, it's not that. They just don't respect elections in general anymore. They've decided that the only elections they will respect are the ones they win. If they win, yay! If they don't win, no.
George, in 2016, I can remember sitting here doing the Conservative Commandos radio show saying how important the election would be. This is going back to 2016. And we talked about for all the reasons. And the one major reason I think that just about everybody agreed upon, that was the future, the future of the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. And wow, I think that the going back to Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and all that, and now with the death of Ginsburg and the idea that Donald Trump might get to nominate his third justice to the Supreme Court, just goes to show we weren't blowing smoke back then.
Right.
That was serious, and this is serious, and this is just proving how serious and how important that election was. And I think it's also pointing out how serious the next election is, and how our side needs to be motivated, and how we need to get out there and support this president, and support Republicans and conservatives, no matter where they are. If they're in your district, great. If you're in your state, great. If you have to support a conservative clear across the country, you must do that too.
Right.
Because this is really showing elections do matter.
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. They absolutely do. And I think what this tells us is, make sure you do not ever take an election off. Don't ever say, well, this guy isn't somebody I like that much, so I'm just going to take this one off. You can't, because some people, I think, did that in 2018. What did we get out of that? We got out of that impeachment. What else did we get out of that? We've got, quite frankly, a government that was so divided and so maniacally trying to bring down the president that they completely ignored things like the COVID virus, the Chinese virus that was essentially exported to America. Who was asleep at the wheel on that? Not Donald Trump. He was the one that was shutting down travel from China and into Europe, back and forth, and people were criticizing for doing it because, quote, he didn't have any good reason for doing it, as they said at the time, including people like Joe Biden, by the way. But Nancy Pelosi was handing out impeachment pens while all this was going on. And so that's what they cared about. That's what mattered to them. And it seems to me that's what we have to be understanding and realizing, is that there's a lot of this craziness going on. And if we don't, if we don't figure this out, if we don't just wake up and realize that there is one party that is unhinged and nutty as all get out, then we're in trouble. Because I think I have friends that I think, probably intend to vote for Biden. And I'm worried about them and kind of the level of awareness that they have. It's like, really? You're a friend of mine. It means we have certain things in common, certain values in common. How did you fall asleep at the wheel so tremendously that this is now an acceptable option? And so I think we have to speak up and let our friends know. I'm not saying don't be their friends. I'm not going to end friendships because I disagree. But I think I will say to my friends, you keep acting like because Trump has some tweets you don't like that he's somehow a bad guy, and this other guy's awesome and just like a paragon of virtue. He's a serial liar, plagiarist, blah blah blah, on and on. I don't want to get on too big a roll there, but I had a friend who created a list of things that they found they didn't like about Trump, and I thought to myself, I could create that exact same list, and it wouldn't be based on stupid crap. It would actually be real. And Joe Biden is actually a real skunk. He's not a good guy. Indeed. If you think Joe Biden's a good guy, you're not paying attention.
All right. Hey, George, let's take our next break, or first break, actually, and then tell our listeners and our viewers who our guests are for today. But you are listening to and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. Today's show, like all our shows, is being brought to you by the First Amendment, protected by the Second. George and I will be right back right after this break.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And once again, welcome back. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. And the hallmark of our show, George is our great guest, and we're kind of doing a theme show. Today, it's pretty hard not to do a theme show after this past weekend's news and the potential ramifications for not just the days and weeks, months, but decades ahead of us, George. Really, really important times. And I think our guests and the topics for our conversations will truly reflect that.
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, we're going to start off with Dr. Gerard Lameiro. He's always interesting. This is a kind of a Renaissance man. He also has proven himself to be really good at making predictions because he's got some economist in him, some philosopher in him, some engineer in him. So he makes up a pretty good, what you call a model in which he puts in data, and it helps him kind of look at what is the data set telling him. And what the data often tells him is what's going to happen in the next election. And he seems to do a really good job of that. So we'll talk with him and not just on the next election, but this whole Supreme Court thing and how it might affect the next election. So I'm sure that'll be an interesting conversation. And then we've got also Bob Barr coming up. And anybody who knows about his career in the House as a representative of the 7th District in Georgia, and also as just even after he left the House, he's worked in law. He's worked in nonprofits with a organization called Liberty Guard. He also works with law enforcement education and so forth. He's also has a consulting firm, Liberty Strategies. What's all interesting about that? Liberty and the idea of constitutional freedoms. Anyhow, we're going to talk to him about this as well because he's seen this play out. You know, he's been up on Capitol Hill. He was in leadership. And while he wasn't a senator, he was on the House side, and he watched many of these contentious nominations and then the subsequent hearing in the Senate side play out. So I think it'll be interesting to hear what he has to say and kind of how he sees it. And then we're going to close out with Frank Salvato, and he's a host of a program. It's a podcast called The Underground. And I've known Frank for a while, not well, I mean, but he's written for Frontiers of Freedom really for a while back, going into, the early 2000s, back when George Bush was in his first term. So it's been a while. But he's been on Fox News. He's a syndicated columnist. He's a smart guy. And we want to talk to him about this as well, get his sense of what this is all about, because you'll hear all kinds of crazy stuff like we shouldn't fill the seat. It would be wrong to fill the seat. The Constitution and they blah blah and history and all that, and all that's bunk. The fact is the Constitution is clear, and it tells the president what he should do. Not only is the Constitution clear, but historical precedent is clear. Every single president since our founding who has had a vacancy during the final year of a term has, in fact, not decided to punt. They have always made a nomination. And then what you will find is that you had varied results in what the Senate has done. The Senate sometimes has approved that nomination and sometimes it hasn't. And bottom line is that's the president's job, and then it's the Senate's job to consider it. The Constitution does not tell the Senate it has to approve the president's choice. They have the role of advice and consent. If he picks a wackadoodle, they can, of course, say, no, we don't want someone who's crazy. But he won't. We already know what his list is. His list is a very impressive list of very important and well thought of jurists that we know something about, and we can make assessments about what kind of judge they'll be. So I'm not really worried about the Senate saying what.
Well, that's one thing that Donald Trump has done that Joe Biden refuses to do. Joe Biden refuses to give his short list. And we know, Donald Trump started to give his list before the last election. He started to give his list. of who he would nominate for the Supreme Court. George, right after we heard that, or the news came down that Justice Ginsburg died, I posted something on my Facebook page, and that was, Amy Barrett, mark my words. I wanted to get your take on who you thought Donald Trump would pick. I picked Amy Barrett because I thought, well, she was on the short list when he nominated Kavanaugh. She is a constitutionalist. She's a woman. A woman, replacing woman. And I also think, let's hear the liberals come after a woman the way they come after Kavanaugh. And I think if they do that, women around the country go, wow, look how the Democrats are attacking a woman. They are attacking me. Your thoughts, George?
Well, I think your thoughts there are actually pretty good. I think that I have no qualms with Judge Barrett being the nominee, and I think you're right, was kind of the next in line, as it were, in the president's mind after Kavanaugh. So I have thought that given this election cycle, there's one other choice that I think might make a similar amount of sense. And I'm not saying this would be a better judge. It's hard to be a better judge than Amy Barrett, but I think she'd probably be as good a judge as Amy Barrett, and that's pretty darn good. But it's she's on the 11th Circuit, and she is Latina, and I am pretty sure that the Democrats are going to savage whoever the president puts up, as they did with Kavanaugh, as they did with Gorsuch even. They, not quite as bad with Gorsuch, but still, it was not any sort of cakewalk. And so I think that forcing the Democrats to ask themselves, do we really want to savage this, Latina jurist? And the answer is yes, they do. And yes, they will. So I think it's a great idea to perhaps pick someone like that, because I think that there are a lot of Latinos who are drifting toward, maybe historically thought of themselves as Democrats, but like Ronald Reagan once said, they're Republicans, they just don't know it yet. And I think the Democrats may be very willing, because some polling shows that that Republicans or that Donald Trump is picking up a lot of support in the Latino community, the Hispanic community.
George, naming a Latina makes a lot of sense, as much sense as naming a female.
Right.
Again, it would be for Democrats to attack her, a Latina, a minority, a woman. My God, what does that say to women or minorities in their party? Barbara
no
Lagoya,
place for you here.
Barbara Lagoya is who you're talking about. She's the first Cuban-American woman to serve on the Florida Supreme Court. Yeah. Her parents escaped from Cuba when she was a child. She'd make a great choice. And George, I think you bring up very good points about her not only being a woman, a minority, a Latina. And wow, Trump is already making inroads with the Latina votes.
Right.
This may be a real game changer.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be upset if it's Amy Barrett. Not saying that. I'm just saying there's other options that might even be more difficult for them to deal with.
As you say, he has options. Options are a very good thing. Hey, George, we need to take a break and then get our first guest on. And you are listening to and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth. Yours truly, Rick Trader. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with our very good friend, Dr. Gerard Lameiro, talking about Judge Ginsburg's death and his feelings of how this might affect the election. Don't go away. We'll be right back right after this break.
Mom, thank God you're going to be okay.
So relieved. But you both should know when my time comes, I have a final expense policy with Senior Care USA.
Is Senior Care USA the life insurance policy that helps loved ones pay for funeral expenses and other debts? Bill and I called to get more information.
Yes, and there's an immediate payout of up to $50,000.
If you're over 50, call Senior Care USA now to learn more about final expense insurance plans.
There's no medical exam, even if you have a pre-existing condition like I do. When I called, the quote was free, and there was no pressure.
I found out that policies start for as little as 35 cents a day. Rates will never increase and coverage won't decrease.
I'm going to call today.
Ask about the free prescription discount card. Oh, I'm so glad you'll be taken care of.
Call 1-800-822-7419. That's 1-800-822-7419.
But is it? It's really just the beginning, right? Have you written a book and want it published but don't know where to start? You're not alone. Page Publishing cuts through the confusion that most new authors face, like copyright protection, barcodes, printing, and digital uploading. We will get your book into bookstores now. We guide you through the publishing maze and help you distribute and sell your work in hard copy and ebook formats. That's right. We will digitize and place your book for sale on Amazon, Apple iBooks, and Google, offering it to millions. Don't waste another minute. Most publishers won't even look at new author submissions, but we're different. We review your book and provide you feedback in about a week. If we decide to publish your book, your work ends and ours begins. From copy editing and proofing to typesetting and book cover art, our team gets you into bookstores fast.
Call 1-877-461-5033.
Does your current bathroom need to be updated immediately? Introducing one-day bath and shower remodeling. The complete and hassle-free way to get the new bathroom of your dreams in as little as 1 day. And for as little as $199 a month. Yes, the experts at One Day Bath and Shower Remodeling will come to you anywhere in the country and show you all the customized options. Now you can have a brand new bathroom in as little as 1 day. Large or small bathrooms, if you want a new bathtub or shower installed, we can do it in as little as 1 day. And if you call right now, you can save $750 off your remodel. We make it easy by offering you financing as low as $199 per month. So for as little as $199 a month, you can finally have the bathroom of your dreams. Call now to schedule your free in-home consultation.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Rick Trader and George Landreth. And for rebroadcasts of our show, be it our radio show or our TV show, check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. Well, George, when the news came out about Justice Ginsburg dying, there are two people that immediately came to my mind that I wanted to get their views on this. One was you, George Landreth. The other was our guest. So please make that introduction.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that. For our regular viewers and listeners, of course, you recognize Dr. Gerard Lameiro. He is a friend of the show. He's a friend of conservatives everywhere, and he's an author, philosopher, economist, and an engineer, which we could say more briefly just by saying he's a Renaissance man. Or perhaps he's a lot like Thomas Jefferson, right? Who was, could do everything. But at any rate, he's the author of 5 books. He's also a popular TV and radio show guest, and you might guess that's one of the reasons we have him on so often. He's always interesting. One of the things I always find interesting about him, my very first election that I had a chance to vote in for presidential was 1980, Ronald Reagan. He had the chance I just cast a vote regular like most citizens do, at the polls. He was on the Electoral College. He was a member of the Electoral College and cast a vote for one of the 270 required votes. Of course, he got more than that. But he cast one of those for Ronald Reagan. So he of course also is a great prognosticator, a great predictor of political outcomes, has some complex models he uses, and that's what allowed him in the last election to pick it right when everybody else got it so dead wrong. And he's also got a great book out now that I recommend you read, and you probably get for your family members as part of their continuing citizenship education. It's entitled Real World Socialism. So and you can get that just about anywhere. But anyhow, with that, Dr. Lameiro, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos. We're so glad to have you with us.
Well, it's great to be with you. And by the way, in 1980, I not only voted in the Electoral College, I voted in the election for Ronald Reagan. I also voted in a whole bunch of conventions before then.
So you cast many, so we could accurately say that 1980, you voted for Ronald Reagan multiple times.
Right. I worked
without breaking any laws, though.
No, I didn't break any laws. I worked my way up the convention status. You know, you get to vote in the state convention, the county, you know, all the different votes. So he got quite a few votes from me that year.
That's excellent. Well, of course, the most important one being the one in the Electoral College. But
absolutely.
But anyhow, so I know Rick wanted to get you on to talk about this whole question of, Ruth Bader Ginsburg and what this might mean. I think I had told, and I'll just give my, one sentence. I think it generally has the potential to be very beneficial to President Trump because it will remind people how important the court is. And I think it's an issue that cuts his way. And I think his choice could even make it more powerful because I think that no matter who it is, the Democrats will savage them. And I think that could help certain demographics realize that the Democrats aren't on their side.
Well, it's going to help them in another way, too, that may not be as obvious. But the Democrats, different Democrats, depending on which one you talk to, have said some outrageous things. Like Pelosi said that she'll consider impeaching him for appointing a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, as required by the Constitution.
As required by the Constitution.
Maybe, next time they bother to pass a budget, we should just impeach them for the budget.
That's right. That's true. And there might be more justification with that because their budgets are so outlandish.
Right.
But also some of the Antifa, the BLM types have threatened blood in the streets and rioting and violence. I mean, they're associated with Joe Biden and supporting him. I mean, what kind of people support violence in the streets because of a Supreme Court justice or any other action of the president? The fact that they're making this into a violent protest is just going to tend to bring out the law and order voters even more.
I agree. And I think it'll turn the stomach of a lot of people who may not be hardcore Trump supporters. They may be people who are a little bit ambivalent, and maybe they find some of his tweets or other things annoying, and they're not really sure what they want to do. And all of a sudden, they're going to go, wait a minute. This is getting too crazy.
Even some Democrats
over a Supreme Court justice who seems to me to be very well qualified, et cetera, et cetera. And so this has the potential to push a lot of what I would call on the periphery voters in his direction. And I don't see how it pushes any against him, because you can say all you want that he shouldn't be filling this seat. And it's just like, under the Constitution, it doesn't say to wait. And they could say, oh, but that's what they did in 2016. I'd say, well, that was very different. What the Democrats seem to want is they want the Republicans, when they have the majority in the Senate, to exercise that majority in their favor. And that's what they wanted in 2016 was, please don't be the majority right now. Just give it to us. Let us be the majority because we're in an election year. And we want, Barack Obama to get one more appointment. And now they want the same thing, which is for the Republicans to give up the majority and pretend they're not the majority. Elections have consequences, to quote Barack Obama. And they don't have the Senate. And they didn't in 2016, and they don't now. And that's why they're in this fix.
That's right. I was going to give you some data. I like numbers. Yep. This has happened 29 times in the history of our country.
Wow.
29 vacancies in the Supreme Court during an election year for president. Out of those, let's see, 19 of them get all these numbers right. 19 of them occurred, I believe, when a Democrat was in office, but the Senate was the other way. And basically what happened, if you look at the history, is the times when you had a Republican or a Democrat Senate with the same kind of party holding the White House, they were passed, as you'd expect. And those times when they were not the same, they were opposite, there were only 2 examples where people got in. Most of them got turned down. So it's more likely the case, if we're following historical standards, that a Republican president would nominate a good person, conservative, and the Republican Senate will go ahead with it and approve that person.
Yeah. One of the things I think is interesting about this, just to kind of take a quick snapshot of reality, is that one, when we talk about conservative justices, we don't mean politically conservative. In other words, we don't mean that these justices are going to promote tax cuts or whatever. What we mean is that they will try to conserve the Constitution as written, that they will uphold the law as written, instead of acting as if they're the judges taking off their robes and becoming a super Congress, where they get to vote on legislation, the 9 of them, and decide what Congress should have done if they were as smart as them. And conservative judges won't do that. Conservative judges say, no, that's not our role. Our role is to interpret the law as it was written and to interpret the Constitution as written, not to ask ourselves, how would we have done it had we been there in their place? Because that's not their role. That wouldn't be right, because that would give them a lifetime appointment to do the job of someone who has to serve every 2 years. The whole point, if you look at the Constitution, was to divide power and to limit power. How do they limit the congressional power in the House? You have to stand for election every 2 years, and they had enumerated powers as well. So they were limited in that way. For the Senate, every 6 years, and they were also have a limited number of powers. Then how do they limit the court? Well, they got a lifetime. But guess what their limitation of powers was? All they got to do was adjudicate disputes. They didn't get to pass legislation. And so, but we have, more liberal, progressive judges don't see it that way. They see themselves as, oh, well, if Congress didn't do it right, then we'll step in and do it right for them. That's dangerous. You're trading essentially a system where we had a life-appointed king for a system with 9 life-appointed judges. That's what we fought a revolution for? To go from 1 to 9?
Well, Trump is picking people based on a originalist type ideology, a jurisprudence ideology. The Democrats, I think, tend to pick political people who will enforce their democratic philosophy. Democrat, in a different sense here, their political philosophy, which is essentially progressive socialism. So there is quite a bit of difference between a Democrat president being in office and a Republican, and Trump is picking people that are constitutional conservatives. Amy Coney Barrett, for example, she's picked rock solid conservative. Did law clerkship for Justice Antonin Scalia. She would make a perfect person.
Absolutely. Rick, how are we doing on time?
We need to take a break, George.
Okay, well, if you want, I'll take us out.
There you go, buddy.
Fair enough. But sometimes the clock is a cruel taskmaster. I've learned to dislike the clock. I don't usually dislike inanimate objects, but the clock is becoming an annoyance to me. But I do want to remind our viewers and our listeners, this is the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landreth with Rick Trader, and of course, we're talking with Dr. Gerald Lameiro, and we will be right back after these messages. But I do want to remind you, you can check out our website, ccrshow.com. All kinds of information. Other shows are always there. We truly are everywhere. Don't go away. We will be right back.
A Attention homeowners. Do you have a house that's in need of serious repairs? Do you have tenants that never seem to make their monthly payments? How about code violations, past due taxes, or maintenance costs you just can't afford? Then call my friends right now at Quick Cash Offer. They specialize in buying any home, no matter how ugly the situation. Turn that problem property into cash right now. It's just that simple. One call and you can get rid of that home headache forever. They buy the ugliest houses with instant closings, instant cash, and huge savings. Plus, there are no realtor fees, no listing fees, and no repair costs. Just cash in your hands for that painful property. They're buying a few more houses in your neighborhood this month. So take advantage of this cash offer and call Quick Cash Offer now.
855-296-8854. 855-296-8854. That's 855-296-8854.
Listen carefully. If your student loan debt is overwhelming you and things seem hopeless, we've got great news.
If you're still struggling with your student loan debt, there are government programs available that may actually lower your payments by consolidating your federal student loans. Just call us. We'll review your situation and work with you to consolidate your debt. In many cases, depending on your situation, we can lower your monthly payments in half or more. It doesn't matter how much you owe or how far behind you are. Even if you're in default, call us right now to find out how we can lower your payment in half immediately. You can stop the harassing phone calls and the wage garnishments. All you need to do is pick up the phone and call us right now. We can remove your default status, consolidate your federal student loans, lower your payments, and we can do it today. Stop worrying. This is a real solution that can help. So please call us right now.
Call 800-917-8671.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you and all seniors from the Final Expense Insurance Hotline. The average funeral costs about $7,000, even more. And the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255. That leaves your loved ones with a burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay up to $30,000 for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam and you'll have lifetime coverage. Plus, your rates will never increase and your plan cannot be canceled regardless of your medical condition, as long as you make your premium payments. Get free information right now. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 855-221-7334.
Do you have an idea for an invention, but you don't know what to do next?
How do you get in front of companies or get a patent?
Call InventHelp. They've been helping inventors just like you for 35 years.
And thousands of people contact them every month.
With 65 offices, you can meet with an InventHelp representative near you who will keep your idea confidential and explain their invention process step by step. InventHelp has helped over 10,000 inventors get patents. And they offer 3D animations and prototyping services to help demonstrate your idea. InventHelp's exclusive databank includes over 9,000 companies who have agreed to confidentially review new ideas, like yours.
Don't wonder what to do next. Take action right now and get the help you need from InventHelp.
InventHelp. Call today for free information.
800-880-2937. That's 800-880-2937 now.
And again, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. And again, for rebroadcast, check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. You can also check out the AUN television network at aun-tv.com. And also our new Roku channel. Check us out there at American Uncensored News. Very good friend of ours is a guest, Dr. Gerard Lameiro. He's an author, philosopher, economist, and engineer. He's actually the author, I believe, 6 books, Doctor?
Yeah, the new one makes it 6.
The new one makes it 6. We got to update that bio in a little bit, and that book is Real World Socialism. Well, Dr. Lameiro, as I said when George introduced you, that there were two people I wanted to get their opinions on what had not just transpired with the death of Justice Ginsburg, but how this is going to affect the political climate moving further. So I gave you a call right away, and I also texted George. I knew George was on vacation, so wanted to see where his thinking is. And Dr. Lameiro, I think this is what a lot of people out there want to know. This is going to be like throwing gasoline on a flame. I mean, I really think that this is really going to explode into being a big political issue. And as you do with all your forecasts, have you drawn up any forecast as far as, okay, here we go. It's Trump's constitutional duties to name a successor. By doing so, it's going to inflame both parties. Have you done any forecast as far as who is it going to help? Is it going to help Joe Biden? Is it going to help Donald Trump by making this pick now and also the Senate working on it?
It's going to help Donald Trump, no question. It's going to help because basically his base wants to see a conservative Supreme Court. They're going to support his pick. They're going to support the Senate confirming that pick. And it's also going to further increase the rhetoric of the left. And they're already pretty much off the deep end. This just will inflame them more because they're acting pretty silly, really, when you think of it. Mm-hmm. They can't take the idea of a conservative getting on the Supreme Court. They're so fearful of that. That tells you a lot about where they want to take this country.
But does that motivate their side?
Their side?
Yeah, does that motivate their side? The fear that President Trump is going to have another pick. That'll make 3. We know how contentious the Kavanaugh hearings were. Do you expect that this time it's going to be any more or less contentious? Or the same, or what's your feelings?
Yeah, it's probably going to be more contentious. By the way, this will bear out another one of my predictions. I predicted in early 2016 that Trump would not only get elected, but he would appoint 3 new Supreme Court justices that were constitutional conservative. So another one of my predictions is actually in the process of coming true now. I was worried for a while it would go into the next term before you get to pick Ruth Bader Ginsburg's successor. But no, that's going to happen now. No, I think what's going to happen is actually it's going to backfire on the Democrats. I think all of their efforts are going to come short because they don't have the votes in the Senate. And I think they may have 2, Senator Collins and Senator Murkowski, who don't vote in favor, but they may just vote present. And that means that 48 votes will confirm this new justice. And so I think, yeah, because you get a 47-47 tie, you have the vice president who votes. So I think no matter what, they're going to lose in the end, but the rhetoric is not going to do anything to help them. It's going to actually help Trump's supporters to get fired up even more, that we've got to save the country from this group of people that are off the deep end.
Dr. Lameiro, what lessons do you think the Trump team learned during the Kavanaugh hearings, during the Kavanaugh confirmations? And also, Doctor, do you think that the Kavanaugh hearings, being as contentious as they were, actually saved the Senate for the Republicans in 2018?
Well, it certainly may have helped, but I think what it really does, the real lesson learned is don't give an inch to the Democrats, because they're just going to take a mile. And actually, you know, if you go back in history, James Burns, you may not know the name, not that well known in history, was appointed to the Supreme Court. FDR nominated this person. He was in the Senate. He was a senator, a sitting senator, and he was voted in by unanimous consent. There's nothing in the Constitution that says they have to hold hearings and hold a big circus like they did with Kavanaugh. There's nothing in the Constitution that requires only advice and consent, and that is accomplished by having a vote. So they could have a vote, and this could be done very quickly.
Dr. Lameiro, Nancy Pelosi's already threatening to impeach the president. She's already talking about impeachment if he goes ahead and makes this election. If she took those steps, again, what side gets the benefit?
The Republican side, because they look like they're so ridiculous. They're viewed by a lot of voters as obstructionists. And this just says and confirms the fact that they're only in there to obstruct Donald Trump, and he was elected president. I think all these words, the idea that they're going to make Washington, D.C. a state, make Puerto Rico a state, and get 4 more Democratic senators, the idea that they'll pack the Supreme Court if they don't get their way, it just shows like they have to change the system when they keep losing. And it's going to help them to lose more often. And I think people are turned off by it, and the people that are becoming turned off are growing in number. And even somebody like Paul Emanuel, you know, somebody like him who's pretty darn liberal, doesn't even like what Pelosi said.
Dr. Lameiro, there's also the potential, and people are promising chaos in the streets, riots. Looking on the internet, they're promising. If you think what has happened this past summer was something, wait till you see when Donald Trump makes another nomination. Again, I got to ask you this because you are the prognosticator. You are my go-to guy. All right, Trump makes the nomination. There's riots and chaos in the street. Again, Dr. Lameiro, who does that help?
Donald Trump. And by the way, they're threatening the same thing if he wins the election. They're trying to threaten the American people and saying, if you want peace, you've got to vote for Joe Biden, our guy, and we will not allow you to vote for Donald Trump. Those are not the sayings of people who are Americans, who believe in freedom of speech, freedom of ideas, freedom of association. They're trying to threaten us with violence if we don't give them what they want. These are anarchists. These are people who are revolutionaries, and they have no business in our political system, and they certainly have no business dictating to us. And I think a lot of Americans will vote against them just because they're sick of them and
Dr.
sick of the threats.
Here we are about 50 days out from the election. I don't have the exact number of days in front of me, but you know, I want you to assess the Biden campaign. It seems like he's not getting people to come out at his rallies, but you had posted something on your website. I wanted to ask you about the Harris-Biden campaign. What's that about, Doctor?
Well, the question is, what kind of president would Joe Biden be if he's truly senile, which a lot of people think, even Democrats think he is, showing signs of senility. And we had about, last Monday, a week ago, we had Harris talk about a Harris administration with the help of a Joe Biden president. And that's like saying he's a show-only president. He's going to be there for show purposes, but it's going to be a Harris administration. Well, so people could think that was just a mistake, a slip of the tongue. But then the next day, it was in Florida that Biden was speaking, and he talked about a Harris-Biden administration. Now, saying that twice in a row by both of the major candidates, one has to wonder if those were both slips of the tongue, or is that really their plan? And they're signaling their voters, their radical leftist voters, that this will be run by a radical. Harris is a radical leftist. And she's saying it's a Harris administration with Joe Biden on the side. That tells you something.
Dr. Lameiro, we only have a minute, but I got to ask you this question. You're talking about Harris being part of this ticket. Is he helping Joe? Do you see any movement where the having her on the ticket is actually helping him?
No. No. The evidence we have is when talking to black people and trying to get a pulse on their voting likelihood is that they will be less likely to vote for Biden because of Harris, not more likely.
Why?
I think they don't like her radical viewpoints. They don't like how many black people were basically sent to jail with her as a district attorney. They don't like her. She just doesn't suit them, doesn't fit what they're looking for. And so many of them are going to Trump anyway. It's hard to not have them go to Trump just for her too. I mean, any reason is enough for them to walk away from Biden and go to Trump. And right now, as I've said, I've been predicting 42% of black Americans are going to vote for Trump. That number hasn't changed. There's only now data from the polling that supports my models, believe it or not, which is interesting.
Doctor,
we have some polls now.
Doctor, we only have about 30 seconds left, so I have to ask this and ask for a quick answer. 348, is that still the number?
Yes, that's easy answer.
348, the number of electoral votes that Dr. Gerard Lameiro has predicted Donald Trump will get in this election. Dr. Gerard Lameiro, we always love having you on. Please tell our audience how they could keep track of you and what you write and how to get your books.
Right. Well, all my books are on Amazon. There are 6 books. They're in print and they're on Kindle, if you like Kindle better than reading words. In terms of the website, greatnewsforamerica.com, greatnewsforamerica.com. I have a weekly article. I'm just writing my current week's article now in between doing the show, and that'll be out shortly. And they can read those every week. And if they want, as one of your listeners did last week, they sent me a note and said, "Can I get on your mailing list?" And I said, "Sure, I'll send it to you."
All right.
So they were listening.
How do they give us that mailing list address? Give us
Oh,
the
well, just go to the
again.
website and hit the contact button and fill in the form that says what you're writing for.
All right. Dr. Gerard Lameiro, thank you so much for joining us. Take care. God bless.
God bless you and all your listeners.
And you are listening to and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. On the other side, we're going to be speaking with Congressman Bob Barr. He represented the 7th Congressional District in Georgia for about 8 years. And we're going to be talking about Democrat hysteria will undermine the very institutions they claim to be protecting. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our next guest.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service and always free delivery and confidential packaging. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
Broken AC, $4,600. Water heater, $1,500. Fridge on the fritz, $1,000. You need home warranty coverage from the Home Service Club for around $1 a day. If any of your covered appliances and systems break down, HSC will either repair or replace them.
HSC provides coverage of up to 47 different appliances and systems in your home.
I trust HSC.
HSC has over 15,000 pre-screened, highly rated technicians with the fastest response time in the industry. They cover everything from ACs, stoves, fridges, pool pumps, and more. Call the number on your screen now for a free no-obligation quote from a trusted HSC specialist about a home warranty for your entire home, backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call now and get 1 month free plus $75 off your first year of coverage. 1 month free and $75 off your first year. The Home Service Club.
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for dental visits. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for transportation to my doctor. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay to have my prescriptions delivered directly to my home. Did you?
These and more are important benefits some Medicare Advantage plans may give you. So if you're eligible for Medicare, call us right now because you may be eligible to enroll in a plan with amazing additional benefits. Some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for services like these: dental visits, vision coverage, hearing coverage, home delivery of drugs, even gym memberships. Some plans may include no copays for many services and zero deductibles. Don't wait to find out if you're eligible to enroll in a plan that may include some of these wonderful benefits you deserve. Call us right now. The call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation. Make this free call now to learn if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan that may include additional benefits you want. Call us right now.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service and always free delivery and confidential packaging. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. And I want to give a shout out to folks who are listening to us on radio stations in Jacksonville, Tampa and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, California, Arlington, Virginia, Washington, D.C., as well as seen on the AUN television network. And with that, George, we do have our next guest with us, and please make that introduction.
Absolutely. I'm very pleased to. We have with us Representative Bob Barr. He was the representative from Georgia's 7th District in the House of Representatives through the better part of the 1990s and the early 2000s. He was, his whole time there, he was a champion of individual liberty, of the principles embodied in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. He now practices law in Atlanta. He's the chairman of Liberty Guard, which is a nonprofit pro-liberty organization, which should not surprise you the slightest. You would expect nothing less of this man. And he also heads the Law Enforcement Education Foundation and a consulting firm, Liberty Strategies. So with that, Congressman Barr, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos.
Always great to be with you, and especially right now when there is so much going on up in Washington and across the country politically and from a judicial standpoint now.
Absolutely. No, that's the truth. It's pretty crazy to watch what's kind of happening right now. You've written a really good article, I think, that is important for folks to kind of understand, because I hear people saying, and kind of the people who hate Trump, they suffer from this derangement syndrome, that he's ruining all of our democratic institutions and he's doing this and he's doing that. And oh my God, and they throw on these words that like they mean something. But the reality is what they really mean is, I don't like him. His tweets offend me. That's what their main but it seems to me they're the ones, and your article makes the case, they're the ones that are essentially damaging our constitutional norms. So I'd like to, just with that brief introduction, let you kind of outline what's going on here, and why are they setting their hair on fire? We have now a vacancy, and every time there's been a vacancy in a presidential election, I think it's 27, it might be 28. I can't remember if it's high 20s. Every time the sitting president has named a nominee. They're acting as if somehow if Trump were to do that, it violates some sort of constitutional norm.
It's absurd on the face of it, but of course that certainly does not stop the Democrats from pulling out all of the stops, running around, as you said, George, with their hair on fire, as if the world is going to end because President Trump and his Republican colleagues in the Senate, led by Mitch McConnell, are shredding the Constitution and stealing a position for the Supreme Court, when the sole thing that President Trump is proposing is to exercise the power that is clearly given to him in the Constitution to fill a vacancy on the court. All he said is, I intend to send a name forward to the Senate. All that Mitch McConnell has said is, if in fact the president sends a name forward to fill a current vacancy on the court, we will hold a vote on it so that Congress can fulfill, the Senate can fulfill its responsibility to provide its advice and consent, namely confirmation. And we can get into in a minute what the Democrats are proposing in opposition to this, but the president is doing only that which is provided for in the Constitution, supported by law, and supported by historic precedent, as you indicated.
And Nancy Pelosi has suggested that is an impeachable offense.
You can't
make this up
with a straight face, George. You really can't. That is precisely what she is proposing, and it makes no sense any way you look at it. But they're serious about it, not only going after the president, but even my namesake going after Bill Barr, the Attorney General, for some reason, as if he has something to do with this.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. Let's talk a little about what some of the things that the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer are doing. Because one of my frustrations is when I look at this is in 2016, Barack Obama appropriately and correctly exercised his power to nominate someone for an opening in the Supreme Court. And I would argue, under advice and consent, the Senate appropriately decided to not affirm that person or confirm them, to just kind of say, yeah. And people say, they didn't even give them a vote. They don't have to. The reality is, many times, a body in Congress will simply not take something up as a way to say we disapprove. We see it all the time with legislation and treaties.
That is such an elementary principle, not just of the Congress, but of any organized body, that it is ludicrous that one even has to remind the Democrats of this and to remind the American people of this, simply because the Congress, the Senate, has the power to confirm or advising consent doesn't mean that they have to. Similarly, simply because the president has the power to nominate an individual for the office of Associate Justice on the Supreme Court does not mean that he has to do so. And for the Democrats to run around like kids with their hair on fire, saying, "Oh, the president is committing a grievous offense by sending a name forward because it's an election year," is absolutely laughable, were it not a serious body that is making this position.
Right. I mean, I had my, if you will, things I didn't, the idea that Mr. Garland or Judge Garland was a, quote, moderate candidate. He was moderate compared to some of the people that Obama could have picked or may have wanted to pick, but he was not a moderate. He's a moderate in the same way that Joe Biden's a moderate. I mean, it's kind of like, but at any rate, but I never in my wildest dreams would have suggested that the Republicans needed to impeach Mr. President Obama for nominating him. And yet that's what we're talking about. I mean, this is the level to which they have sunk. This is the sort of stuff that if I were a high school civics teacher and someone had said that, you'd have to give them an F on that kind of an essay because it's just too ludicrously stupid. And if you'd have to fail a high school kid in a class for that kind of an answer, what does it say about the Speaker of the House, who's third in line to be president?
It is absolutely frightening, is what it says to me and all Americans that understand even a little bit about how the constitutional system of our governance actually works. It is truly frightening that the Speaker of the House would even consider that it is an offense worthy of impeaching a president simply because the president sends a name forward to the Senate for a nominee to fill a vacancy on the Supreme Court. And it would be one thing if the president sent a name forward when there wasn't a vacancy, but there's a vacancy. It is the responsible thing to do to seek to fill that because it is an extremely important position. And it's not as if the president can fill the spot on his own. The Senate has to agree to it.
Yeah, all he can do is nominate. But one of the things I find puzzling about this is I think you could argue that Nancy Pelosi acting like she wants to impeach the president for doing things he's clearly and constitutionally supposed to do, you could argue that that's a violation of her powers because she's essentially attempting to influence his constitutional duties and what he's doing. She's basically saying, if you don't ignore the Constitution, we're going to punish you for it. And that strikes me as not really okay. In other words, it's not just that it's ludicrous, it's actually very damaging to have the idea that fulfill your constitutional duty and we will impeach you for doing so. It's abusive.
It clearly is. And while there's no, you can't impeach a member of Congress, you can simply vote them out of office if they're next reelect. Or
the people can impeach them, so to speak. The people can impeach them, so to speak, meaning in the next election, as you described. But yeah, you're right.
But it is frightening. And when we get into, if you'd like, or with Rick, a discussion of what it is that the Senate and the House are proposing to do beyond this idiotic move of claiming that the president sending a name forward to replace Justice Ginsburg is an impeachable offense. That becomes even scarier what the Democrats are proposing to do.
Absolutely. That's a discussion that we'll need the whole segment for, so I'm not going to steal Rick's thunder on it, but I just maybe to tease the topic so our listeners know after the break. We're talking about things like packing the court, something that was viewed historically on a bipartisan basis as a really bad idea, as kind of outlandish. And it's one of the black marks, as it were, even among liberal scholars on the presidency of President Roosevelt. that he proposed packing the court. And yet now they're talking about it like it's a serious, and there's things like that. So you kind of realize this is the level to which they have become just insane, that they're now suggesting things that were, considered not okay. But I know we're up against the break, and sometimes the clock is not our friend, and that's the case here. I'd love to keep this conversation rolling and keep on going, but I just want to remind our viewers and our listeners, this is the Conservative Commandos. Make sure you check out our website. You can get rebroadcasts there, ccrshow.com. Don't go away. We'll be back with Representative Barr right after these messages.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. And shout outs this time to folks who are watching us on the AUN television network in San Francisco, San Rafael, Marin, North Bay, San Jose, Silicon Valley, Santa Rosa, Redding, Chico, Sacramento, Fort Bragg, and Napa Valley. Our guest this segment is Congressman Bob Barr. He represented the 7th Congressional District in Georgia, and we're discussing that Democrat hysteria will undermine the very institutions that they claim to be protecting. Congressman, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Well, Congressman, as you and George more than teased about in the first segment, let's talk about some of the threats the Democrats are making if President Trump does his constitutional duty and puts up someone to serve on the Supreme Court. Let's start with the packing of the courts.
Thank you, Rick. Since 1869, the number of justices that serve on the U.S. Supreme Court has been set by federal law at 9. It's not a constitutional requirement, but it is set by law. And for 150 years now, there have been 9 justices to serve on the court. One of the ways that the Democrats now are toying around with to punish the Republicans and punish Trump for daring to send a nominee forward to replace Justice Ginsburg is to pass a law that if they get power in the Senate and the presidency, to pass a law that expands the number of justices from 9 to however many they want. There's no limit. That would allow them to pack the court, so to speak, put additional members on there that would be proposed by, I hate to say it, even hypothetically, a President Biden and a Senate controlled by Chuck Schumer. But that is precisely what they're planning. They're making no bones about it. And this would be a terrible injustice to the Supreme Court, which has operated very well. Not always that I agree with every decision they've come out with, but having 9 justices on the court provides plenty of diversity of opinions and judicial background and geographic background to make sure that you flesh out the opinions coming from this very important body. The last time there was an effort to pack the court was in the late 1930s when President Roosevelt, who was mad because the Supreme Court was finding some of his proposals unconstitutional. So he threatened to pack the court to increase the number and to provide opportunities for him to nominate new members, more of his liking. That proposal, thankfully, did not go anywhere. But the Democrats now, 70 some odd years later, are proposing to do it even worse than Roosevelt had planned back in the late 1930s, Rick.
Also, the Democrats are threatening to give statehood to Puerto Rico. I almost said Hawaii, and it is already the 50th state, but they're threatening to give statehood to Puerto Rico and to the District of Columbia. And Congressman, talk about the ramifications of that.
Here again, a lot of people, some that I've spoken to recently, Rick, say, well, that would require a constitutional amendment to increase the number of justices on the court, or in the case of the hypothetical that you just proposed, to grant statehood to Puerto Rico and or the District of Columbia. Not so. It is the way well, in this case, the District of Columbia or Puerto Rico, neither of which are states, the way that would work is that it would be a bill that would pass through the House and the Senate, and if the president signs it, Puerto Rico would become a state, or the District of Columbia would become a state. Why is this important? Well, it's important because both the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico are heavily Democrat in terms of their political affiliation, their voters. So if even one of them became a state, and the Democrats are threatening to do this, if they win a majority in the Senate and gain the White House, then that would mean, in the case of the District of Columbia, 2 Democratic senators, and in the case of Puerto Rico, very likely another 2 Democratic senators. So this is the way that they're proposing to not only pack the Senate, but pack the Supreme Court as well. And there are other things that they're proposing, but those are the 2 most important ones that you've noted.
Congressman, haven't we come to the point to say, let's give Puerto Rico its independence?
The notion of Puerto Rican independence, or to continue to be affiliated with the United States, its citizens are full-fledged citizens of our country, of course, or whether to become a state or whatnot, has been bouncing around for decades. And I think there's a lot of merit in what you say. Just it doesn't make an awful lot of sense from a fiscal standpoint to have Puerto Rico remain in the status that it is, which is sort of half in, half out. And it's a fairly expensive proposition if you look at just the amount of money flowing to Puerto Rico, federal tax dollars.
We could continue to subsidize it, but that would certainly, yeah, I don't know if there's ever been polls taken or a vote taken in Puerto Rico that maybe they would want to become independent, an independent country. They could still receive U.S. foreign aid. I mean, and I just think that maybe it's time. Maybe it's time that we put this baby to bed once and forever and say we are removing this as an issue.
There have been periodically polls or referenda in Puerto Rico. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that the most recent one, and I don't think there have been any real recently, but I think the last one that was taken, the last referendum, excuse me, resulted in the people of Puerto Rico saying they did not want to become a state. They voted, I think, against full-fledged statehood. But of course, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, in their zeal to pack the Senate and gain additional Democrat seats, I can see them moving forward with making Puerto Rico a state, even if a lot of people in Puerto Rico don't want it. Pelosi and Schumer, they don't let the facts get in the way of pressing their agenda.
Would the population of Puerto Rico have a say in this?
I mean, technically, no. I mean, technically, the Congress, somebody could introduce a bill that would make Puerto Rico the 51st state, or the 52nd if they go with D.C. first. And that bill simply is voted on up or down by the members of the House of Representatives, and then would go over to the Senate. So technically, no, it does not require the support of the people of Puerto Rico, but that would be an awfully bizarre situation for the Democrats in the Congress to be pressing for and actually voting on statehood for Puerto Rico if a majority of its citizens don't want it. But this is such a bizarre world that they're operating in, Rick, that reason and facts play no role whatsoever.
Well, Congressman, talking about bizarro, you write in your article, the Democrat hysteria churned up by Ginsburg passing is unprecedented, beyond even the despicable attacks on Kavanaugh during the Senate confirmation hearings. Congressman, was any lessons learned by either side? Were any lessons learned during the Kavanaugh hearings?
Well, if you listen to people like Romney, no. The one to listen to back in 2018 during the Kavanaugh hearings was Lindsey Graham, who said very clearly, very loudly, and very accurately that the way the Democrats were conducting themselves during the Kavanaugh hearings was absolutely abhorrent. And he said he hopes to high heavens, I don't remember his exact words, that the Democrats never again are able to exert power as a majority, considering how they just mercilessly and viciously attacked Judge Kavanaugh during his hearings. But Romney is already saying, oh, gee, I don't think I can vote for a nominee by the Republicans since it's an election year. And Susan Collins is saying the same thing. It doesn't matter whether it's an election year or not. There's a vacancy on the Supreme Court, and the president, elected by the people of this country, has an obligation and a responsibility to seek to fill it. And then it's up to the Senate. But if the Republican senators don't listen to what the Democrats are telling them about how they will take steps if they get the majority to guarantee, all but guarantee, that the Republicans will never again get a majority on the Supreme Court, if the Republicans don't listen to that, then they're beyond hope.
Congressman, talking about those three senators, you got Romney, you got Collins, you got Markowski, who said they would not support bringing up a nominee, a Trump nominee for the Supreme Court. Does McConnell have any leverage with these senators?
Yes, certainly. There is a power that the majority leader has with regard to committee assignments, for example. But ultimately, they can vote however they want. Now, of course, even if we lose a couple of votes, as long as we get 50 votes, we're okay, because Mike Pence would cast the tiebreaker, and it would be 51-50. But if we lose more than the 3 right now, it's 53-47 if I'm not mistaken. Then we've lost, and not only would we have lost the opportunity to provide another conservative, hopefully, on the Supreme Court, but we will have given the Democrats the opening to dramatically change the rules of the game, not only with regard to the Supreme Court itself, but with regard to how the Senate operates in the future.
Congressman, we only got about 30 seconds. I got to ask this question. And are you a betting man?
I have cast a bet every now and then.
All right. What is your take? Is number 1, is Trump going to make a pick? Number 2, will it be approved?
I do think since Trump is a man of his word, he says he will send a nominee forward. I would be very surprised if he doesn't. I think that it may turn out to be a 50-50 vote, and Vice President Pence will cast the deciding vote.
All right. Congressman Bob Barr, as always, you're so generous with your time with us. We appreciate it. I know our audience is also. Please tell our audience how they could keep track of you and what you're doing and what you're writing.
Thank you, Rick and George. They can go to bobbarr.org, www.bobbarr.org, or they can go to the Law Enforcement Education Foundation, Law EEF, where I post a lot of my articles, or they can go to Liberty Guard, www.libertyguard.org, which is where where I do a lot of my work, and they can see what I've been writing and talking about.
Congressman Bob Barr, again, thank you so much for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.
And you are listening to and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. Frank Salvato is going to be joining us right after the break. He is a radio talk show host. He does a show, The Underground, talking about Phil Ginsburg's seat immediately. And we'll do that right after this break.
Mom, thank God you're going to be okay.
So relieved. But you both should know when my time comes, I have a final expense policy with Senior Care USA.
Is Senior Care USA the life insurance policy that helps loved ones pay for funeral expenses and other debts? Bill and I called to get more information.
Yes, and there's an immediate payout of up to $50,000.
If you're over 50, call Senior Care USA now to learn more about final expense insurance plans.
There's no medical exam, even if you have a pre-existing condition like I do. When I called, the quote was free, and there was no pressure.
I found out that policies start for as little as 35 cents a day. Rates will never increase and coverage won't decrease.
I'm going to call today.
Ask about the free prescription discount card. Oh, I'm so glad you'll be taken care of.
Call 1-800-822-7419. That's 1-800-822-7419.
But is it? It's really just the beginning, right? Have you written a book and want it published but don't know where to start? You're not alone. Page Publishing cuts through the confusion that most new authors face, like copyright protection, barcodes, printing, and digital uploading. We will get your book into bookstores now. We guide you through the publishing maze and help you distribute and sell your work in hard copy and ebook formats. That's right. We will digitize and place your book for sale on Amazon, Apple iBooks, and Google, offering it to millions. Don't waste another minute. Most publishers won't even look at new author submissions, but we're different. We review your book and provide you feedback in about a week. If we decide to publish your book, your work ends and ours begins. From copy editing and proofing to typesetting and book cover art, our team gets you into bookstores fast.
Call 1-877-461-5033. Does your current bathroom need to be updated immediately? Introducing one-day bath and shower remodeling. The complete and hassle-free way to get the new bathroom of your dreams in as little as 1 day and for as little as $199 a month. Yes, the experts at One Day Bath and Shower Remodeling will come to you anywhere in the country and show you all the customized options. Now you can have a brand new bathroom in as little as 1 day. Large or small bathrooms, if you want a new bathtub or shower installed, we can do it in as little as 1 day. And if you call right now, you can save $750 off your remodel. We make it easy by offering you financing as low as $199 per month. So for as little as $199 a month, you can finally have the bathroom of your dreams. Call now to schedule your free in-home consultation.
And once again, we want to welcome you back. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. And as I love to do, I love to give shout outs to people who watch us and listening to us, watching us on stations in San Francisco, Sacramento, San Jose, Santa Rosa, Redding, Chico, Fort Bragg, and Napa Valley. And with that, George, we do have our next guest with us, and please make that introduction.
Absolutely. We're very happy to have Frank Salvato. He is the host of The Underground. That is a podcast that you can hear on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon podcasts. He's anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find Frank and The Underground. His writing has also been recognized by the U.S. House of the U.S. International Relations Committee and the Japan Center for Conflict Prevention. And he has had his work published by a number of organizations and publications, the American Enterprise Institute, the Washington Times, Accuracy in Media. He's nationally syndicated, and I can tell you very proudly that Frontiers of Freedom has been very proud to have a lot of his work published with us because he is a smart thinker, and you should read his stuff. But at any rate, he has appeared on the O'Reilly Factor, Fox News Channel. He's also the author of 6 books that examine internal and external threats to our country. And he's also heard on the Captain's America Third Watch, which is a radio program on the Salem Broadcasting Network. And he's somebody that you ought to be aware what he's thinking about. So with that, Frank, welcome to the Conservative Commandos. We're glad to have you.
I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely.
I love the show. I listen while I'm working.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. I have to say, I can't speak for all the Conservative Commandos, but I know that I enjoy being on the show and doing it, and I always enjoy it with whoever the other host is, but in particular with my good friend Rick. It's always time passes way too fast.
Yes, it does.
Well, you've written a great article, and it is about the Ginsburg seat. I call it that because it was her seat recently, but she doesn't actually own it. She doesn't have the right to will it to anyone, and her last, dying wish is not really very relevant. The Constitution is what's relevant, but at the same time, I understand why we call it that. So, with her passing, and I'll point out, I disagreed with almost all of her legal opinions that were of important nature, but at the same time, I don't need to dance on her coffin. I don't need to, I remember when David Koch passed away, not just some cranky guy on the internet, but actual people who worked for publications wrote things like, I hope he died in agony and pain. I can't wait for his brother to be reunited with him soon. Things like that, pretty disgusting stuff. I don't want to do any of that. That's not my point. I don't see any reason to engage in that. But the point is, she has passed away. That means the seat is vacant, and then we have a constitutional process. So I was going to ask you to pick it up from there.
Yeah, I agree with you on being ugly towards the dead. There's no reason for it. It says a lot about the individual who needs to lash out at somebody who has passed. Just to comment on her last words, allegedly, that came from one of her aides. So we don't even really have any corroboration that she said in her dying breath. It seems odd to me that she would be surrounded by her family, and the last thing she wants to say to everybody is, don't let Trump put somebody in my seat. It doesn't pass a smell test.
Well, yeah, and on top of that, it's just also let's assume we had it on video, and so we knew it was her. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We have a constitution to govern these things. It's not actually her seat. She doesn't own it.
Nothing in government belongs to any of these people, and I think they forget that 100% of the time. They're there to serve us. They've turned us around in the last 100 years to the point where we work for them instead of them working for us. It's something we have to get back to. The Constitution is very, very clear. It says when there is a vacancy, the president will bring forth a nomination and the Senate will advise a consent so that seat can be filled. There is no caveat in there for mourning. There's no caveat in there for if an election is 3 months away, 2 months away, or tomorrow. It doesn't matter. There is no hiatus. So when we are listening to Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi or AOC or any of the usual suspects from the left talk about, well, we can't entertain a nomination. This is ridiculous. And a couple people on the right, by the way, who said they won't take up a vote either, which is very disconcerting. They're abdicating their responsibility to the Constitution, and they are acting politically instead of as servants to our government. And I've noticed this all my life. Coming from Chicago, you get to have it a little bit more because they tend to skew things up there the way they want to politically. But we as a society have really mistaken politics for government. Republicans don't have anything to say about this. Democrats don't have anything to say about this. The Constitution is sacrosanct and it is delineated. There will be a process that starts with the vacancy. Period. Dot.
Yeah. You even have people like Nancy Pelosi, of course, threatening impeachment again over the president nominating someone. It's just, I think the whole discussion is lost its sanity. It's not that I disagree with them and think, oh, well, they're completely insane. They've lost their mind, and we ought to call them out on it. We just ought to point out, you people are insane. You're so consumed with hatred that you've become unstable, unhinged.
I'd like to call them the oligarchic elite. They used the Constitution as a suggestion rather than rules to operate by. Nancy Pelosi, I don't care what she says about this because the House is not involved. She shouldn't be opining at all. She has no standing. They like to say a lot when we go into court, well, you have no standing to bring that argument. You have no standing to bring that lawsuit. Well, she's got no standing to have an opinion on this other than being a bystander just like everybody else. It's
her opinion is no different than yours or mine. Except that you and I actually understand what the Constitution says, and she clearly doesn't.
Yeah, and I don't even think she could wear some glasses that would allow her to see through that lens. So if the media weren't shoving microphones in front of her face, and then they were actually focusing on the people whose opinions matter on this, they would be looking at it through a constitutional lens, and that is the end-all be-all. Now, the ironic thing here is we're talking about the body that gets to say what is constitutional and what is not, and they're trying to lock it down to a 4-4 tie in the event of the worst-case scenario come November 3rd.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I think when you add all this up, I think they are simply angling for chaos. I think the push towards the rapid push, I'm not saying you couldn't devise a system where you mail in your ballot that is secure. I think we probably could at some point. I'm not sure that's the best way to do it, but I think you could probably work out the technology where you could secure the vote. I'm not sure you can do it in 3 months and now 2 months. It would have taken time. Every state that does it has had significant problems. And so it seems to me the rapid push to jump into a whole new way of doing voting is designed to create chaos. And now they're trying to create constitutional chaos as well. So it just seems to me, part of this is they're acknowledging that they're going to lose this election.
Well,
and that they want to create a chaos situation in hopes to salvage it some way.
And they're telegraphing that they've got nothing to argue. They haven't been arguing any issue points at all. They can't argue the economy. They can't argue national security. They can't argue trade deals. They can't argue anything because they were completely invested in the impeachment before. And now they're invested in COVID, which, boy, that's a month load of shows just to talk about that issue.
Oh, yeah.
But
try 6 months worth of shows.
Yeah. So you've got these people who need to bring the chaos and divide, and this is what they've been doing with Black Lives Matter and Antifa and everything else. They're creating this violent chaos in the streets so people who are rank and file get panicked. And as we know from studying progressivism, if you are the best funded and most well organized entity that steps into the middle of that chaos and says, I have a solution that will bring you back some security, people tend to flock to that. They're betting it all on black on this. And that was not a pun. But, they're betting it all on black on this. And that gamble may come back to bite them very well, because the polling numbers are not bearing out that it is as close as the media is portraying it to be.
That is for sure. I think when you look at some of the crosstabs and really analyze what the polls are saying, I understand why they're nervous. If I were on their side, I would be too. But they like to pretend that, oh yeah. I have a theory about, you watch a football game, if you tune it on and there's only a minute to go in the game, when you see one team kind of like running the ball up the middle, what do you know? Looks like they're probably winning, right? If you see one team dropping back and throwing 50-yard passes in the last 4 plays of the game, what do you know? They're losing. It doesn't matter what the announcer tells you the score is. He's probably wrong, because their behavior tells you what the score is. And I would argue that you can tell the Democrats know they're not winning and that they're not likely to win, because their behavior is revealing. And so at any rate, but we are up against the clock, and fortunately we've got a second segment with you, and I know Rick will have lots more to get into with this, because this is a very interesting and timely topic. But I do want to remind our listeners, this is the Conservative Commandos. We, of course, are the radio show, the television show on the AUN TV network, and of course carried on the Conservative Commandos radio network, as always. I am also would be remiss if I didn't point out that you can also get us on Al Gore's amazing internet. TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, you name it. We truly are everywhere. And of course, our website, ccrshow.com. Check us out there for rebroadcast. It's all there. Don't go away. We will be right back with more from Frank Salvato.
Attention homeowners, do you have a house that's in need of serious repairs? Do you have tenants that never seem to make their monthly payments? How about code violations, past due taxes, or maintenance costs you just can't afford? Then call my friends right now at Quick Cash Offer. They specialize in buying any home, no matter how ugly the situation. Turn that problem property into cash right now. It's just that simple. One call and you can get rid of that home headache forever. They buy the ugliest houses with instant closings, instant cash, and huge savings. Plus, there are no realtor fees, no listing fees, and no repair costs. Just cash in your hands for that painful property. They're buying a few more houses in your neighborhood this month. So take advantage of this cash offer and call Quick Cash Offer now.
855-296-8854. 855-296-8854. That's 855-296-8854.
Listen carefully. If your student loan debt is overwhelming you and things seem hopeless, we've got great news.
If you're still struggling with your student loan debt, there are government programs available that may actually lower your payments by consolidating your federal student loans. Just call us. We'll review your situation and work with you to consolidate your debt. In many cases, depending on your situation, we can lower your monthly payments in half or more. It doesn't matter how much you owe or how far behind you are. Even if you're in default, call us right now to find out how we can lower your payment in half immediately. You can stop the harassing phone calls and the wage garnishments. All you need to do is pick up the phone and call us right now. We can remove your default status, consolidate your federal student loans, lower your payments, and we can do it today. Stop worrying. This is a real solution that can help. So please call us right now.
Call 800-917-8671.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you and all seniors from the Final Expense Insurance Hotline. The average funeral costs about $7,000, even more. And the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255. That leaves your loved ones with a burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay up to $30,000 for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam and you'll have lifetime coverage. Plus, your rates will never increase and your plan cannot be canceled regardless of your medical condition, as long as you make your premium payments. Get free information right now. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 855-221-7334.
Do you have an idea for an invention, but you don't know what to do next?
How do you get in front of companies or get a patent?
Call InventHelp. They've been helping inventors just like you for 35 years.
And thousands of people contact them every month.
With 65 offices, you can meet with an InventHelp representative near you who will keep your idea confidential and explain their invention process step by step. InventHelp has helped over 10,000 inventors get patents. And they offer 3D animations and prototyping services to help demonstrate your idea. InventHelp's exclusive databank includes over 9,000 companies who have agreed to confidentially review new ideas, like yours.
Don't wonder what to do next. Take action right now and get the help you need from InventHelp.
InventHelp. Call today for free information.
800-880-2937. That's 800-880-2937 now.
And once again, we want to welcome you back. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcasts of our show, the best place to go is our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. You could also check us out on our networks website. That's aun-tv.com. Check out our new Roku channel at American Uncensored News. You'll find our show there, as well as all the great shows that are broadcast on the American Uncensored News Network. Frank Salvato is our guest. He's the host of The Underground, and we're talking about an article that Frank wrote, Fill Ginsburg's Seat Immediately. Frank, thank you for holding through that break. We really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
And Frank, you know, I say this all the time. I learn so much from our guests. And you have a line in your article, and you talked a little bit about it with George, but you have a line in your article that when I read it, I go, there it is. This is really what it's all about. We have been duped into believing that politics is government. Politics is not government. Very interesting. I love that line. And talk a little bit about that, if you will, Frank.
Absolutely. I mean, when we get on to whatever outlet we decide we want to consume our news from, we always hear about what the Democrats feel and what the Republicans feel. And then they pound that into us. So the average person looks at the television, looks at the Senate and says, well, that's got to be the Democrat side and that's the Republican side. But as George Washington said in his farewell address, he was very plain about it. And I'm going to paraphrase because they use better English than I do. Beware politics in government because it'll be the end of the republic. The founders wanted politics to cease at the door of the chamber because the people were elected to do the work of the people. The senators were supposed to make sure that they were safeguarding the rights of the states. That's why originally the legislatures of the states appointed senators instead of having them directly elected. And the House was supposed to be the most contentious house because it represented the people. But they were supposed to be representing their constituency, not their political parties. As time has passed from our founding, politics is now so ingrained the talons are tearing at the flesh of the constitutionality of what our government is. And a lot of the founders, if you could resurrect them right now, would say it ceased to be what we gave you when you did direct election of the senators, because now no one's looking out for the rights of the states. So we've mistaken politics for government, and this is very evident in what we're seeing right now with this Ginsburg seat being filled, when they say we shouldn't have a nomination and a vote on the Senate floor until the people have spoken after the election. Well, the people spoke 4 years ago. The people spoke again 2 years ago, and in some cases for the Senate, the 2 years before that as well. So we don't have a hiatus. We don't look and say, well, we've got a punt on this one because this little area of time between 2 weeks before an election, it really doesn't count. The president doesn't matter at that point. Yes, he does. The Constitution mandates that it does.
Frank, you brought up something in my mind when you talked about what Washington said in his farewell address. The founding fathers warned us about political parties. John Adams was very leery of political parties. And when you talk about the republic, Ben Franklin says, we've given you a republic if you can keep it. Very important. So, Frank, in your article, you talked about how the left is reacting, or it's beyond reaction. Yeah. I mean, these people are going bonkers. And the tweets, Frank, are absolutely outrageous. And I wanted you to talk about some of those tweets.
Well, you're looking at, and these are people who consider themselves the self-anointed intellectual glitterati. You know, people who've scored a CNN show, and I think the squirrel down the block is on the short list for scoring a CNN show these days. So, you know, who knows? Right. But they are vehemently caustic. Caustic to the point of fomenting violence. You know, burn it down. Obama said it, and I'll use his words. Words matter. Mm-hmm. You know, when you've got people out there who have a lemming following, and they're telling you to take to the streets, create havoc, burn things to the ground. One quote even said to go ahead and burn Congress down. You know, these are people who are fomenting the masses to violence, and I don't see why we aren't aggressively interacting with these people with law enforcement. I really don't. We've been allowing this kind of incitement to go on for quite some time, and it has become the status quo, and these people are now emboldened. We're seeing the results of allowing this kind of talk to go unchecked in the streets of Seattle and Portland and Chicago and New York and wherever else they say, well, we've got to let them blow off steam, so let them burn down a few blocks. No. We don't act like that in a civil society where we have a rule of law. And remember Adams, he brought up Adams, so one of my favorite lines from him, you know, we are a nation of laws, not a nation of men. And what he meant by that is we don't make exceptions.
Frank, you have another great line in here that Schumer and Pelosi of the left talk about a period of mourning. That mourning must happen simultaneously with the execution of government. I love that, Frank.
Let's anybody who's old enough to remember when President Kennedy was assassinated. Indeed. We didn't wait for the next election to make sure that the presidency was filled. The First Lady held the Bible with blood on her dress. That's how quick this had to happen. So the process doesn't start. There is nothing, and I mentioned this in the first segment with George. There's no hiatus. There's no built-in time of anything in the Constitution. There's a continuity of government that must happen. If there are 9 seats on the U.S. Supreme Court, then those 9 seats must be held full to the best of the government's ability. Waiting for an election because of political reasons, waiting for, we have to mourn. No, you can mourn and do this at the same time because it's mandated that you do.
You know, Frank, whenever I talk with people about how this person and that person can't be replaced, never will be replaced, I always go back to when I was about 13 years old, and we replaced the President of the United States 22 minutes after an assassination. People got to remember that we must move on, that we must preserve the republic, we must protect the republic. And if you listen to people, the prospects of what is going to happen after November the 3rd, from November the 3rd till January the 20th, 2021. I mean, this may be a very unprecedented time in the history of our country. We need our government, and we need its checks and balances. Frank, am I thinking too far outside the box?
No, I think you're very focused, as a matter of fact. You know, I've been saying this since Barack Obama was elected, to anybody who would listen. The progressives, and now I call them the Marxist progressives because they've pretty much just opened their coat and showed what they're wearing. They believe it's their time, and they are racing for the goal line. And we are literally playing catch up on this. Every time you see a protest go violent in a major city, that's been a softening to see how we respond to that, how the nation responds, how the national government responds to it, how the state governments respond to it. After this election, when the Democrats lose, if you thought it was bad in Portland and Seattle because of the George Floyd protests, you ain't seen nothing yet. And unless there is a forceful putting down of this violence, we're going to lose some cities.
Well, Frank, I think that the response is going to be very different after November the 3rd. I really do.
Well, the president's hands will be unhandcuffed, that's for sure, because there are no more re-elections after this.
Right.
And you've got an attorney general who's making some noise right now about dealing with this. Let's hope that it's not rhetoric coming out of Washington, but that these are promises coming out of Washington. Because a lot of times we hear what we like to hear, but we don't see any follow-through on it. If we see follow-through on this, then government is serving the people well.
All right. Frank Salvato, the Underground. Frank, please tell our audience how they could listen to you and listen to the Underground and also read your articles.
Well, I always keep a featured article over there. You can find us at undergroundusa.com. That's the easiest way to get me. And if you listen to a morning show very, very early in the morning on Salem, you can hear me on the Captain's America Third Watch with Matt Bruce.
Well, Frank Salvato, I hope this is the very first visit of many that you make here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. I can't believe this is the first time you've been on. I don't know where I've been. Not where you've been, where I've been.
I'm very pleased to have been asked, and anytime you call, I'll answer.
All right. Frank Salvato, thank you for joining us. Take care, and God bless.
Thank you for having me.
And you are listening to and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landreth and yours truly, Rick Trader. Avoid disappointment and future regret. George and I will be back with more right after this break.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service and always free delivery and confidential packaging. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
Broken AC, $4,600. Water heater, $1,500. Fridge on the fritz, $1,000. You need home warranty coverage from the Home Service Club for around $1 a day. If any of your covered appliances and systems break down, HSC will either repair or replace them.
HSC provides coverage of up to 47 different appliances and systems in your home.
I trust HSC.
HSC has over 15,000 pre-screened, highly rated technicians with the fastest response time in the industry. They cover everything from ACs, stoves, fridges, pool pumps, and more. Call the number on your screen now for a free no-obligation quote from a trusted HSC specialist about a home warranty for your entire home, backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call now and get 1 month free plus $75 off your first year of coverage. 1 month free and $75 off your first year. The Home Service Club.
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for dental visits. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for transportation to my doctor. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay to have my prescriptions delivered directly to my home. Did you?
These and more are important benefits some Medicare Advantage plans may give you. So if you're eligible for Medicare, call us right now because you may be eligible to enroll in a plan with amazing additional benefits. Some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for services like these: dental visits, vision coverage, hearing coverage, home delivery of drugs, even gym memberships. Some plans may include no copays for many services and 0 deductibles. Don't wait to find out if you're eligible to enroll in a plan that may include some of these wonderful benefits you deserve. Call us right now. The call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation. Make this free call now to learn if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan that may include additional benefits you want. Call us right now.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service and always free delivery and confidential packaging. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
Well, George, that just about wraps it up for today. I want to thank you for sitting in as my co-host. And George, for those of our listeners and viewers out there who would like to keep track of you when you're not here on Conservative Commandos, help them out with that.
Absolutely. I guess I could tell them how they could stalk me, but I think it might be more appropriate just to explain that they can follow me on at our website, frontiersofreedomff.org. You can also follow me on Twitter at glandrith. That's GLANDRITH. And those are two good ways to do it. And I love doing the show with you, Rick. It's always a pleasure. Time flies way too fast. I feel like the clock is my enemy when we're together doing the show because it just whizzes by like you can't believe. But anyway, some great guests today. I have to say, Dr. Gerard Lameiro, always interesting and insightful. And then we had Representative Bob Barr, again, somebody who's been a champion of liberty and the Constitution for his entire career. And then we just concluded with a new guest, and I agree with you, one I hope is a regular, because Frank Salvato was awesome. And I think that's really the hallmark of our show. We got just some great guests.
George, I totally agree, and I say this time and time again. I enjoy this show for many reasons, but especially from our guests. I learn so much from them. But for right now, we are out of time. We got to run, and we got to go. Take care, God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow on TV and on radio.